That's the lesson that you take from this. Don't ever, ever, ever give up on someone.
When it comes down to it, it's a very difficult sport.
I enjoy the people that are here.
Thank you so much.
You're so welcome.
Welcome to Community Closeup. I'm Joe Nelson. Today we take a look back at some of the most memorable stories of 2015. We take you into the ring to find out what it takes to be a pro wrestler. We'll tell you why thousands of motorcycles cruise through an airport and how a hospice patient found healing through harmonies. But first, getting to a hospital during an emergency can be difficult and dangerous, but a Coon Rapids family had to find a ride after midnight during the biggest blizzard of the year when the only cars on the road were stuck, all before their baby was born. 50 years later, this is how Mercy found mercy.
I've never been in a bigger storm, and I've never seen cold and snow that much.
St. Patrick's Day of 1965 saw much more white than green. More than 11 inches of snow covered the streets of Coon Rapids.
There was nothing moving on the roads at all except snowplows. We weren't supposed to be on the roads even.
Coon Rapids police officer Butch Melton came home after work that night, but he and his wife Judy couldn't stay for long.
We could not drive out of our driveway. The street here in the front of the house had so much snow in it that it was impassable.
Judy had been at a friend's house playing cards.
When I left my neighbor's house, I kiddingly said to her, well, okay, I guess I'll go home and start labor.
But this was no joke.
And I was in the house for about an hour when Judy announced that she was in labor.
Butch and Judy had planned on going to North Memorial Hospital, but road conditions made that impossible. The next option was to find a doctor nearby to help deliver the baby.
I happened to think of Mercy Hospital being almost ready to open. So we called Mercy Hospital, and they answered the phone and said yes, they had kept a doctor and a nurse on hand just for this type of emergency. If we could get her to Mercy, that they'd be able to take care of her.
Getting there wouldn't be easy.
So we had several plans, A, B, C, and D.
A city truck with a plow in front was their first choice, but the man with the keys was getting his Z's.
And he was on call. Well, they couldn't wake him up.
Butch had help coming in black and white squad cars, but they first had to battle the then white blacktop.
The first squad car came, and they got to the house, buried it right at the bottom of the driveway.
Another officer came here, and he thought he could go down our street. Well, he got halfway down our street, and he was stuck.
So plan C. I had just sold my pickup truck to Hutch on the police force, fellow officer, a few days before that. So I called Hutch up, and he was home. I asked him if he'd be able to throw some snow on the back end of that pickup truck and drive that over to our street, not getting too close, and see if he could walk into the house, and we'd walk her out to the pickup truck. In those days, every one of the officers, including myself, that were there had delivered babies before. So plan D would have been to have the baby right there at the house, but she wasn't going to hear of that.
And we walked down 3 houses and got on the highway, and the only other vehicle was the snowplow. And I remember he had to use his hand to wipe the snow away from the windshield.
It was 1 hour later that we arrived at their emergency room. That's how long it took us to get there, getting stuck, getting out.
Tom Matson, the administrator, was at the hospital to greet us, and Dr. Romero, and then 2 nurses.
The Meltons made it to Mercy.
I think it was 3:30 in the morning when we got there.
She wasn't born until about 6:20 in the morning.
And Mercy met them.
And the nurse came in and said, Mrs. Melton, I hope you realize that we already have your baby's name picked out.
Butch and Judy had picked out the name Janine for a baby girl, but that plan changed too.
And we said, so what is the name? And she said, Mercy Patricia.
And that's when it really first dawned on us. It was the first baby being born there. And I said, well, I'd agree to that, but Mercy's name has to end in an I rather than a Y.
So it worked out beautifully that she became Mercy Janine.
Mercy was born, we all got happy and celebrated, and of course Hutch was Mercy's godfather.
People ask about my name, so then I have to tell the story.
Today, Mercy DeRusha still remembers how the community embraced her as their new hospital's first baby.
It was really a major celebration. It was good news. It was special. It was unique.
She got presents, and my goodness, she got all kinds of gifts.
The family couldn't celebrate for long.
Well, she had spinal meningitis when she was still a baby there. And I forget how old she was. I don't think she was a year old. Anyhow, we put her at Mercy Hospital. She was in a coma for 13 days. Actually, her little heart stopped, and the doctor injected adrenaline directly into her heart and got her heart going again. And she survived. But when it come time to take her home, I owed them more money than the insurance. The insurance wasn't very good for cops then. And so I went down to Tom Matson and says, told him I owe you $2,500. I'll have to work it off. So I started driving ambulance that night. And it took me 3 years, but I got the hospital paid back.
Mercy Hospital soon saw its own challenges.
May of 1965, there's several tornadoes that go through southern Anoka County across the metro area, but it's really where Mercy became known in the community because lots of people there were major tornadoes and lots of damage and entire neighborhoods just destroyed and people injured, and over 100 people, I think 115 or something like that, were treated at Mercy, and 20 or 25 of them had to stay there, and I think one person died at Mercy from injuries from the tornado. So it was a major event.
Both Mercys recovered, and although they're not Irish, the two had reason to celebrate every St. Patrick's Day together.
The first 10 years of Mercy's life, she had a birthday party there every year.
I mean, when I was little, it was like, oh my gosh, I'm going to get a tricycle or something like that. I suppose it didn't dawn on me how big of a deal it was till I was older.
Mercy was seen in parades and papers for years to come. Her connection grew even stronger when she gave birth to her own daughter at Mercy Hospital.
I felt like I could understand what my mom had gone through because the news, it was a big story because now the hospital became generational.
50 years after battling the blizzard, Mercy's parents say they wouldn't have had it any other way.
Mercy's name fits her very well. Mercy. I don't think I can. She has so much compassion for other people.
Very proud to have been a part of it. Very proud. I'm very proud of my daughter. And I'm very proud of Mercy and how she's gone through the different things in her life, and it's hard to believe that she's going to be 50 years old. Just think how old that makes me.
Although not all their memories over the past 5 decades there are good ones, Butch, Judy, and Mercy say they appreciate that special connection they'll always have with Mercy Hospital.
Well, I love to tell the nurses there, you know who I am? I'm the father of Mercy.
Whether they were good memories or bad memories, it was our family hospital. It was our generational hospital and still is to this day.
It's been there for us. It's been there for the community. And it's kind of like half ours. Because there's Mercy, M-E-R-C-Y, and then there's Mercy, M-E-R-C-I. And it'll always stay that way.
Mercy now lives in Mound and has 2 children and 2 grandchildren of her own. Her parents have since divorced and remarried, but the family still goes to Mercy Hospital, and they visited the new Mother-Baby Center when it opened this summer. Also in March, we met a Coon Rapids native who has left an impact on her teams and kids throughout the community. Last December, Rachel Bana became the first hockey player ever to have a jersey retired by Coon Rapids High School. Her number 7 hangs high at the Coon Rapids Ice Center to recognize her accomplishments playing for the Cardinals. Her team finished 3rd at the state tournament, the best season the school's ever seen, and Rachel went on to play at the University of Minnesota. It didn't take long, and 2 more goals were met, winning national championships her freshman and sophomore seasons, and she was part of an NCAA record 62-game winning streak. Throughout her college career, she stayed connected to her hometown, talking to youth teams, becoming an inspiration to young hockey players.
I want to be just like her and be on the Gopher someday. I think that's special just because everyone needs a role model of some sort, and to come out of Coon Rapids and have Coon Rapids girls look up to, I think is really cool.
Rachel finished her senior season by winning her 3rd national championship, scoring the final goal of the title game. She graduated in May and is pursuing a career as a pediatric nurse. In May, we met another sports star on a smaller stage at the Coon Rapids VFW. Dave Balser moved from Chicago to Minnesota to lend a hand to his sister, nieces, and mother, who moved here about 5 years ago. He says he's enjoyed the ride from first working in a warehouse to now ensuring exports follow federal guidelines. But it wasn't his dream job growing up. For the past 18 years, Dave has spent his weekends outside the office and inside the ring. Known as Dave Bell, a member of the Outlawed Saints, the Clint Eastwood-inspired cowboy travels to places like the Coon Rapids VFW and auditoriums throughout the state to grapple goons and body slam bad guys. The wrestler remembers what it was like growing up as a fan, and he does more than just tip his hat to the crowd.
You know, they get in there and they get to be a part of the show and the fans start cheering for him, makes them feel special. And that kid's probably going to go home and the rest of this weekend and next week, and he's going to tell all his friends at school about it, and that's why I do it.
Dave says he plans to retire from wrestling next month with his last match January 9th at the American Legion in Faribault. Still to come, we meet a Coon Rapids man who is learning to move forward after a crash took away his sight. Stay with us. In June, we met a Coon Rapids native who, instead of finishing his degree at North Dakota State University, spent months learning to walk again. Elias Youngbloom suffered permanent damage but shows improvement with each passing day. He now sees life from a different perspective. Elias Youngbloom spends every day with friends and family close by.
In 8 or 9 weeks, there have been 12 hours where I haven't had family or friends here.
The North Dakota State University music education senior and marching band drummer wasn't able to complete his courses this semester, but has more valuable things to learn or relearn now.
This week I started feeding myself again, which sounds stupid and easy, but it's such a huge thing.
On March 16th, after visiting his girlfriend in Fargo, Elias was on his way back home to Coon Rapids, but his drive was cut short.
I was hit head-on by a drunk driver that was going the wrong way down I-94, so they were going westbound in the eastbound lane, and it was just over a hill, so I didn't really have time to react, and I didn't see it coming. And so I was extracted from the car, I don't know how long, and airlifted to Sanford Health in Fargo.
Police say 44-year-old Jana Battern of Fergus Falls with a .196 blood alcohol content crashed into Elias in Otter Tail County and suffered lesser injuries. Hours later, the news spread to his family.
The real situation was so much worse than I knew or maybe even could have imagined. Both vehicles were going 70 miles an hour. The impact was just tremendous. So he just... Everything was swollen and tubes everywhere.
Broke every bone in my face. I think I broke my jaw in 3 places, radius and ulna. I broke the middle 2 bones in my hand, my middle finger. Liver laceration was another one that they had to take care of right away. I guess some bleeding in the brain that they took care of right away. And then later, it surfaced that I had some nerve damage in my right leg, too.
He suffered minimal damage to his brain, and doctors expected a full recovery until...
They're doing a routine exam, and they said, okay, follow the light with your eyes, and I didn't see a light.
Elias will likely never see again.
I had just had one morning where I woke up, and it just all of a sudden hit me, and it was really hard.
You know, I feel a little bit better now about everything because I can see how well he's doing, but it's still hard for me. I think it's the most unjust piece of this, you know.
The Youngbloom family will never forget the damage drinking and driving leaves behind.
Realistically, I should have been dead. I mean, it's pretty much a miracle that I'm here, just because she wanted to go for a joyride, you know, a drunk joyride on a Monday afternoon.
It was just so totally avoidable. You know, I don't understand how somebody who's that age, she's not young, she's not in her 20s, could make a decision like that. If I had anything to say, it wouldn't be anything very nice right now. Obviously has a problem, a drinking problem, but I think she has more than a drinking problem because she has a thinking problem too.
Elias says he hopes others will learn from her mistake.
Just don't do it. It's just so stupid. It's not worth it. I mean, you could kill somebody.
But with goals of running a 5K this fall and returning to teaching music, he continues to get stronger each week at the Courage Kenny Rehabilitation Institute in Golden Valley.
I showered by myself. I haven't done that in 2 months. It's great. It's you know, it's amazing. It's a great way to keep positive. Basically, it's helping me stay focused and you know, wanting to improve each week. So.
The NDSU Gold Star Marching Band has been in tune with Elias's progress every step of the way and performed a tribute from across the pond.
Actually, the marching band took a trip to Ireland in March and they dedicated a parade to me because it was right after the accident.
What did that mean to you?
It's pretty cool. Obviously, I didn't find out until much later, but it was, it was just one of those reminders of why band is such a great thing, or has been such a great thing in my life.
And through the support of loved ones and even complete strangers, Elias is marching on.
If I had to sit, you know, by myself in my room and stew over all my thoughts, that would be it would have been a tough journey, but having people here and always encouraging me, and that definitely is what's helping me through.
Battern does have a prior DWI conviction and now faces up to 15 years in prison if convicted. She has a plea hearing scheduled for December 18th. Elias is now walking normally and returned to work with high school bands in Blaine and Maple Grove. In June, we took you to the Anoka County Blaine Airport that has hosted Discover Aviation Days for nearly 25 years. Veterans like 92-year-old Harlan Blankenship, who knows these planes well, got to relive memories while his grandson and great-grandson made new ones. People of any age with a passion for flying came to see air shows and could take a ride in planes at Janes Field. About 13,000 people got a history lesson on aviation, while organizers hope to get future generations interested in flying. Next year's Discover Aviation Days are scheduled for June 4th and 5th. In July, more veterans came to the airport when 3,300 motorcycles rolled in to raise money for military service members and their families. For the first time in its 10-year history, the Patriot Ride started and ended the nearly 50-mile ride at Anoka County Blaine Airport. This year's Patriot Ride raised more than $100,000 for the Military Appreciation Fund, the Tribute to the Troops, and the Minnesota Patriot Guard, helping service members overseas, others wounded in action, and to show support at funerals. The Patriot Ride is scheduled to return to the airport July 9th, 2016. Up next, how a pen and paper are helping women heal. We'll be right back.
There's a shelter pet who wants to meet you. Meet one today. Visit theshelterpetproject.org. Adopt.
In June, we told you about how victims of abusive relationships are finding peace and understanding through ink and paper. The Alexandra House in Blaine is bringing women in and emotions out through writing.
It all began as a child. It all began after I said I do.
Crystal, a mother of 2 boys from Blaine, expected life to follow a different path.
I had a vision of you know, this happy marriage and retiring, you know, sitting on my stoop with my husband and, you know, watching our grandchildren play in the yard.
But after suffering through verbal and physical domestic abuse, she knew a change was needed.
It all began when I stood up for myself. It all began when I finally called the police.
Something you should know about me. I am a caring, helpful, loving, and supportive person.
Faith from St. Paul, who asked us not to show her face, saw abuse from her husband at a younger age. Years later, after moving in with her daughter, it returned in another form.
I knew it wasn't me that was the problem, but that you couldn't express because they couldn't see it. I have health issues, and peace is something that helps to keep me healthy. So I just knew I had to leave.
Although Faith and Crystal took different paths, both found the Alexandra House in Blaine and met Maddie P., a follow-up advocate who recognized victims' needs for expression.
In a group space, it's not always comfortable for everybody to just talk about what's happening, and so they still need a way to interact with that and process themselves.
With a passion to put pen to paper, Maddie researched the effects of writing on domestic abuse victims. Finding no answers, she decided to still give it a try, starting her own writing group at the house.
We go through goals every week, and it's always the same 3 goals: to take control of what I tell myself, to use words and community to help me heal and let me be me, and to find out who I am and not who others say I am.
Then quiet, lost, and painfully alone, weak, behind the cage, looking in, beautiful, looking out, fearful.
Through different exercises and prompts each week, the writers are seeing the power of personal prose.
Starting today, I decided to take my life back, stay in my lane, and allow others to do for themselves as I have done for them in the past.
One of the things we do is a big tree exercise where we talk about how do we integrate our past, our present, and how do we get to our future? How do we work through all of that?
Faith and Crystal say problems became easier to identify after turning thoughts into words on paper.
Coming to the group enhanced my ability to recognize things that were going on within me that I wasn't aware of.
Now it's physical, it's in front of me, which is scary, but it also means that it's out there, it's not inside of me anymore, and I can deal with it.
And I didn't really had to realize that I was in an abusive relationship. And the longer I've been writing about what's happening or where I'm at, the more I've seen, you know, what was really going on.
It helped me to be able to express myself. It has helped me not be afraid to do it. Because once you see it, so be it.
The writers say they also found comfort in hearing others' stories, knowing they're not alone, and offering advice.
Sometimes I get to a point in the class that I feel like I might be able to tell them something as well, you know, that they could learn from.
I'm a much happier person. I can get that junk out, and what's left is, you know, peace and happiness and, you know, being okay and accepting of who I am versus having this like nasty stuff inside of me. Now peacefully happy and centered, powerful, cage is gone, I am free, and you could see that in me.
Crystal and Faith say the Alexandra House offers more than just an outlet and an ear.
After I left my abusive relationship, I didn't have a job. My car broke down. So that was my concern, you know, and it kills a person to tell their children that Santa Claus, you know, isn't coming this year, and I'm sorry about that to their children. You know, so they made it possible.
I can't say enough about this place. I wouldn't have I've never lived in any of this kind of facility, but you couldn't ask for any more.
Everybody is walking in not just with that abuse that they've experienced, but also with the stress of trying to find housing, trying to find out who I am in the midst of all of this, trying to get a job, trying to recover from addiction, whatever that is, and writing really opens the door to that and says whatever it is that you want to address in this group is fine.
By seeing progress, helping women uncover talents, and recognizing their value, Maddie says she's seeing benefits too.
It's amazing. It's a huge honor, and I say that almost every group because it's such an overwhelming thing to have someone read their own work in their own voice.
It all began as I started to seek help. It all began when I loved myself. It all began.
For more information on joining the writing group, visit their website at alexandrahouse.org. In September, we told you about another form of therapy, introducing a Coon Rapids man nearing the end of his life who found peace and joy during a difficult time. Music therapy sessions offered Lee Tate a chance to express himself and a distraction from the pain at Cherrywood Advanced Living in Andover. Suffering from leukemia, Lee knew his time was short. In hospice care, Lee spent afternoons with Kim Best, who shared her talents and offered an ear. Lee said before the session he had pain in his knee. Afterwards, he said the pain was cut in half. Lee passed away on October 20th, surrounded by family. He was 88 years old. Coming up, we find out what it's like to smash and crash on purpose at a demolition derby. Stay with us.
Hart, what's going on? I'm leaving. Why? What did I do? Not enough. Constantly ignore me. You barely eat anything healthy. You're half as active as you used to be. The pressure is just too much. I quit. Okay, I get it. I'll do better. Just please, don't leave. Okay, but remember, if I go, you go.
Listen to your heart. Don't let it quit on you. Uncontrolled high blood pressure could lead to stroke, heart attack, or death. Get yours to a healthy range before it's too late.
In August, we found out what it's like to be behind the wheel as a demolition derby driver. For decades, thousands have driven to the Anoka County Fair hoping to see crumpled Cavaliers and battered Buicks. Before they can make their first hit, drivers will spend 40 hours or more removing glass, plastic, and upholstery, and anything else that shatters or burns easily. Drivers we talked to say they've wanted to run derbies since they were kids, and they hope to pass on what they've learned to a new generation of rim rattlers.
If you can find the resources and the equipment to do it and somebody to help you, it is something that you'll never experience in any other way.
Everybody that has given a chance to do it should try it. It's a wonderful sport.
Next year's Demolition Derby at the fair is scheduled for July 31st. And last month we gave you a taste of a new brewery, the first of its kind in Anoka. TenK Brewing opened in November in downtown Anoka. After months of changing ordinances and renovating the 130-year-old building, two Coon Rapids natives converted a former winemaking shop and holistic healing center into a craft brewery. TenK Brewing has 3 to 5 beers on tap at any one time with a rotating selection. There's also trivia and live entertainment. To start, the tap room is open Wednesday through Saturdays. Thanks for watching Community Close-Up, and we also want to thank those who shared their stories with us, along with Bao Vang, Drew Schingen, Jenny Yu, and Matt Szymanski for their time and efforts put in throughout the year. Happy holidays, everyone. I'm Joe Nelson. We'll see you next year.